Yo, what's up, guys? Today we are going to be going over some infield that I'm very surprised exists. Because one thing you'll notice about the red pill community, Rolo Tomasi, Fresh and Fit, all those kinds of that whole community, one thing you'll notice, very few of them, if any, have any footage, any receipts showing them have success with women. The only exception might be Andrew Tate, but he's not really a red pill guy. He just kind of used that for marketing purposes, to be quite honest. And the closest thing other than that I can think of is Fresh and Fit. Fresh showing himself how he accidentally got a sugar mama / possible escort pregnant and bought her shit. That's the closest thing you can see to any of these guys showing evidence. So to me, the biggest difference between, say, pickup artists versus dating coaches, which is basically the more, how could you say, the more family-friendly version, right? The guys who are like, buy my watch, this cologne will make women love you, the Men's Health article kind of shit, right? People like, who's a good example? People like Alpha M. And red pill guys is red pill and dating coaches, the generic ones, the family-friendly ones, they have no evidence of their own results. Not every pickup artist does either, to be fair, right? A lot of them have no evidence and no results either. But someone like myself, I post infield approaching women. I post examples of myself, not just approaching women, getting their numbers and even taking them home. I've shown over 10 full clips of that on my channel, like actual pulls. That's something that's very rare. And that's something that's always bothered me, but I have to give some credit. There's this guy, FitX Fearless, who's one of the biggest, most popular red pill type of creators. He seems to talk about physical appearance a lot. He talks about dating dynamics, etc. But he actually showed himself going out and approaching women. So we're going to see at least one example of what a red pill coach, red pill teacher, what they look like when they go out and approach. And this is a guy who talks a lot about how he's maximized his appearance. I mean, I'm not like closely watching his channel, to be clear, but he shows that he's maxed out his appearance. He talks about that a lot. He's a good looking dude. So this is either going to be illuminating in one. We're going to see, does the good looking guy just get it easy, right? Is it like the good looking guy is just positive reaction? The girls are begging to suck his dick, that kind of thing. Or does it not seem to make that much of a difference? And we're going to see what the game of a red pill coach looks like. So without further ado, let's take a look at the footage.
It's not off until 11 p.m.
And because this is live, let me know, guys, if you can hear this.
Ladies.
Hold on, it's a lot going on.
No worries.
Sorry.
No worries. Black women. I tried to approach 100 black girls in Miami. They told me no. All right, guys. So I just got done approaching and I learned a lot. I got rejected a bunch of times, but it taught me a lot of things. I've showed you guys my success. Now I'm going to show you guys my failures. I think it's super, super important to have integrity and show you the truth so you don't think that I'm batting 1,000, that I'm perfect. And I'm going to explain to you what I learned from getting rejected. Hey, excuse me.
I agree, and I respect that.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
How you doing today?
Good.
What's your name?
Cassie.
You look good, Cassie. I want to take you out sometime. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
How you doing today?
Good.
What's your name?
Okay, so his initial approach is relatively solid. Like, he got her to stop right away, and he came in strong. He didn't come in like, like a bitch, which a lot of guys, they either come in too strong and too aggressive and freak the girl out, or they basically come across as extremely, beta, right? They just come across as not assertive at all. And he's doing a good job so far in this approach at making his intentions clear, having a man to woman kind of energy, but not being overly aggressive.
Cassie.
You look good, Cassie. I want to take you out sometime.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry, I have a boyfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Oh my God. Excuse me. Excuse me.
It's good, but it's
Nah.
like this was enough sweetness for me.
Hey, excuse me. How's it going? Excuse me. Excuse me.
It's good.
I mean, that one's on the phone, so yeah, hey, shoot your shot. Why not? Always go for it. But the chances of that working out, especially when you're just saying excuse me, are very low. There are ways. If a girl's on the phone, look, it's a low chance and you might get a negative reaction. But have I pulled girls from that situation? A few times. And the way I did it was basically acknowledging the fact that she's on the phone and saying, hey, just 1 second, tell them you'll call right back. I just want to say one thing. Basically acknowledging the situation as opposed to just ignoring it and expecting her to like get off the phone to talk to some random guy.
But if
Nah.
like this was enough sweetness for me.
Hey, excuse me. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
What's your name?
I'm Vale.
Vale. Where are you from?
I'm from here, but I'm Colombian.
Are you Colombian? Oh, I think you look nice. I can take you out.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a lot to think about there because, I mean, she just said no, thank you, which is kind of, when you hear that, I mean, I've heard that, everyone's heard that. When you hear that, what do you think? You think you're just not good looking enough, right? On some level, she didn't say I have a boyfriend. She didn't say I'm a lesbian. She didn't say, you know, I have genital warts and that's why I'm rejecting you. She just said no, thank you. And so that can feel like a stab to the heart, right? That feels like you're not good enough. You are beta, bro. That's what it feels like, right? You are just not enough of a Chad. This guy is clearly a good looking guy, and yet he's still getting that response. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that no matter who you are, you're going to get reactions like that. Secondly, his game so far, his confidence, it's definitely above average. I wouldn't say it's like a 10 out of 10, but it's definitely better than the average guy. His approach is relatively friendly. He's not overly aggressive, but he's still showing intent, which is good. But he's just going up to her and saying, hey, want to go out? That's a good crutch if you have approach anxiety, to just like get comfortable with approaching. And some girls will say yes, but is that like the optimal strategy, right? Is that the optimal opening line? Absolutely not, right? That's not the best way to go about it. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know anything about why you want to take her out. And it also kind of implies that you don't care who she is, right? You just see her basically as a piece of ass, right? Which, hey, if she really thinks you're attractive and she's available and she's an extrovert, she's the type of girl that's just like, no bullshit. Yeah, I just want to meet a guy and fuck. Okay, that could work. But a lot of women are not going to resonate with that, right? They want to feel like you chose them, not just based on their appearance, but based on their character, based on things you have in common, based on the vibe. And that will make them far more receptive and not feel kind of almost dirty about giving you their number. If they're just like, hey, you're hot, what's your number? A lot of women, especially from more traditional cultures, are going to feel a little dirty about that. So it's not the worst thing. It can work, but it's more of like a beginner exercise to get out of approach anxiety. I am from the US.
Have a good one.
Hey, what's up?
She knows. We're not even trying to talk to you. Bro, what the fuck? She knows. We're not even trying to talk to you. I can take you out.
No, thank you.
Okay. Have a good one. She knows. We're not even trying to talk to you. Bro, what the fuck? She didn't even look at me, bro. She looked at you. Oh, excuse me. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
What's your name?
Sophia.
Sophia. Where you from?
Born in Moscow.
Moscow?
Yes.
What are you doing in Miami?
Just trying.
Also, I want to point out personally, I don't think sunglasses are a good idea, because I guess it makes you more mysterious in a certain way or whatever. You know, it makes you more cold, but a lot of attraction, a lot of connection, a lot of what makes a girl feel your energy, your presence, your masculinity, whatever you want to call it, a lot of that is through the eyes, and you're just blocking that off. And I think that's going to do more harm than good.
To do some stuff.
Trying to do. Really?
I'm
You visiting?
No, I actually live here. I
Oh,
just
really?
Live here, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You just moved here?
Okay, in terms of body language, she's giving clear signs of interest right away, right? And it's something you want to pick up, just the way she is holding herself. And this is something you pick up through approaching a lot of women. You just see the patterns of they tilt their body, they do certain things, play with their hair, et cetera, et cetera. you'll see the patterns of how they act when they're attracted. So this girl's giving a lot of good signs. We'll see how it goes because he's not really so far moving the conversation anywhere interesting. Now, it's okay to be boring a little bit, and sometimes it takes a minute for the ice to be broken. But if you get stuck in that, it starts to feel like an interview. So we'll see where that goes.
Kind of. Long story, but I mean, I lived in Fort Lauderdale. Now I'm back here again, but
Okay, why, how come the move?
break up
Break up.
for the best. for the
Damn.
So the way she's touching her hands kind of seems like she's a little nervous, but in a good way, right? Not in a bad way, in a good way.
And this might be the stars aligning then.
best.
What's
Oh,
up, Eduardo?
yeah, for sure.
Really? So what do you do for fun?
I was doing insurance, but I'm kind of like more heading towards the real estate route. So I do that, and then
So far, I'm not getting a sense for this guy's personality, like who he really is, anything that's unique or authentic to him, really at all, right? It just feels like he's wearing a mask. It feels like there's a barrier between him and the girl. And I think that's a big part of why these interactions just kind of seem a little bit stale.
modeling, but not only she's modeling.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
like
cool.
commercial and stuff like that. Yeah.
Where you heading to now?
I was actually gonna go to the mall.
Okay.
Yeah.
You seem like a cool person.
Yeah.
Well, we should hang out.
I have a boyfriend.
Okay.
Like,
No worries. Thank you.
yeah.
First thing I learned about rejection is most women reject men that come up to them because he's not already pre-qualified. Now, why is this so?
Okay, so I get what he's saying, and being pre-qualified certainly, like if you're a celebrity or you're the DJ at a club, you're pre-qualified. Now all women are way more open to the idea, or more likely to think that you're attractive automatically, right? True, but most women are automatically are going to reject you if you're not pre-qualified. That is not true. That is true if your approach is weak. It's a good percentage, right? It's like maybe half or so, but a good percentage, a lot of women will still be open to the approach if the approach is good. So the interesting thing is he's doing the very red pill kind of thing, which is assuming, okay, a lot of women didn't seem interested. Well, I'm a good looking dude. I have status online. So the reason must be that I'm not pre-qualified, right? He goes into the theory and looks for something that confirms his preconceived notions. And it doesn't seem like he's even considering that his approaches could be better, right? That there's something that could be different about the way he's talking to these women.
So important. When I'm walking on the streets or when I'm, anywhere, I get a lot of choosing signals. Girls look at me, right? But they don't necessarily know who I am.
So easier than this question, it really depends on what you're talking about. Most countries is not that different. The exceptions would be like Muslim countries or like China. That's where there's a significant difference. But if you're talking Europe, South America, Southeast Asia, any of those, it's really not that different. Everyone tends to think the grass is greener on the other side and that it's easier somewhere else, right? I hear all the time Europeans saying it's easy in the US and people from the US saying it's easy in Europe. That's just how people like to think.
A lot of women have had experiences with men being creepy, men being weird, and women, they like social proof. They want you to be socially proven. So rejection a lot of the times, guys, happens because the woman hasn't pre-qualified you. This is why you will notice that, let's say, for instance, I can get a whole lot of matches on dating apps because I have...
I mean, look, he's only shown 4 approaches. And it's entirely possible because slightly more than half of adult women between 18 and 30 have a boyfriend. So it's entirely possible. I believe it's about 60%. To be fair, some of them think they have a boyfriend. It's really just a situationship. But it's entirely possible. It's not statistically that unlikely that you could approach 4 women who are unavailable in a row. So to draw conclusions that quickly is not very logical.
Set myself up to look a certain way. Yes, the girl might find me attractive. Yes, she might think I look good in person, but
And it is true that dating apps pre-qualify you in the sense that they're showing they're available and they're already swiping on you, right? So when you get a match, you already have a lot of things, like you have a much lower chance of getting blown off, even though a lot of girls won't respond anyway. So it's true there's a level of pre-qualification there. But what you want to consider is, even if you have a very, very good profile, the most attractive women, the 9s and 10s, either don't use dating apps, or they have so many matches and so many guys messaging them that it's very hard to stand out. And standing out by approaching in person, if you actually approach well and you have charisma, you banter, you have the right energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you do that, that's how you end up pulling those kind of girls for the most part.
There's no pre-qualification, and the woman can kind of be a little bit standoffish. So you probably getting rejected thinking, hold up, I'm doing this work, I'm looking good. Why are these girls not paying attention?
But I would say if you're in the category where you don't have much game, right? You're a little bit nervous, but you are good looking and you get really good pictures, then online dating will be a great starting point for you, because you'll be able to start getting dates even without having the best game. And then you'll be able to get your feet in the water, right? You'll be able to start getting some experience. You'll start being able to have some success, even though you're a bit awkward, and build some confidence that way. So it is useful if you're in that particular category, especially.
To me, chances are she already has denied you before you came up to her. So you can't let this shit bother you at all. I've approached hundreds of girls. I've been rejected plenty of times. And I know at the end of the day, it cannot affect my confidence, because I know what I just said. Chances are I am not already pre-qualified. So
most people who do this don't end up getting results, because Social Circle, it's legit, it works, but people use it as a excuse not to do the thing they're really afraid of doing, the thing they have anxiety, the fear of rejection, right? Facing their ego. And so what they do is they build a social circle, but they don't make a move on any of the women. They don't really take any risks, because you can't take too many risks when you're building a social circle. And they hope that women are just going to come on to them, which is very unlikely to happen. And managing a social circle, building it, it all takes a lot of effort, a lot of work. Can it work? Can it be effective? Yes, but not until you have the baseline ability to put yourself out there and like make a move and take a risk, and until you have some level of game in the first place. So it really makes more sense to start with cold approach and then move on, or like add on social circle.
A lot of women are a lot more standoffish, right? Don't take this shit so seriously. Rejection is a part of the game. If you go out there and you talk to a girl and she tells you no, you're gonna skip out on the girls that actually like you.
Well, even if this is true, I mean, 3 of the last women I hooked up with all had either a boyfriend, or one, it turned out, had a husband. Now, I didn't know this beforehand. I'm not intentionally making them cheat, but even if it's true that they're not single, a lot of them, they're not, let's say, sexually satisfied or not content with the relationship, and they're in it for the wrong reasons, and they can still be pulled. So there's something for you.
When you give up. I've met a lot of beautiful girls from approaching. Some girls might be in the mood, some girls might not be in the mood.
Like last year, I pulled one of the state winners for Miss America, and she had a boyfriend. Didn't learn that until after, but that does not necessarily matter.
Some girls might be in a hurry, some girls might just be chilling. You don't know exactly what the girl is, what her current mindset state is. So you go up to this girl, you talk to her, she tells you no, and then now you give up. Oh, see, I knew it, Fit. Approaching sucks. You see, you get rejected too. What's the point of me fucking doing it? Because I know I'm never gonna be perfect.
Yeah, and I really like the mindset, what he's saying here. It's all definitely on point, and I agree 100%.
I'm gonna approach women. If you notice, when I was approaching girls, I was doing it the wrong way, on purpose. I was going up to them, validating them, trying to prove a point, right? And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. But chances are, when a woman tells you no, you don't know what her current mind state is, and you haven't been pre-qualified. So a lot of women are gonna tell you no off of default. She's used to guys probably coming up to her, trying to hit on her, and her initial wall barrier is to say no, right? So you can't be super aggressive. You can't be too upset. You can't get too attached to the outcome, which is why I teach you guys to always be outcome independent. So that's the first thing. Most women are gonna reject you. You're gonna get a lot of rejections. It's part of the game because you haven't been pre-qualified in a certain way. Second thing I learned, guys, was when
The only thing that bothers me about his little speech here is he's not mentioning that really a lot of them is just because they have a boyfriend. Like, it's nothing more complicated than that.
you approach women with validation, they automatically look at you as below them. You guys already know, I've talked about this plenty of times. I did it in my other code approach video. You can go watch it after the video, where I was kind of pre-qualifying the girls myself. When you go up to a woman and you validate her, and
So this is interesting because why then in all of his approaches is he kind of coming across that way? Because one thing I noticed is he kind of lacks any edginess. He's not disagreeable at all. He's not really teasing the girls. He's not being challenging. He's qualifying the girls very much, right? He's like showing interest. Oh, very cool. What do you do? Nothing wrong with that, but there isn't any sense of challenging her, of, maybe him not being interested, of push, pull, hot and cold, any of those kinds of things, of like a dominant, challenging energy. Now, you do want to be friendly and positive and charming, but you want to mix that with some degree of that other side where you're challenging and you come across as dominant and like you're taking control. And he's kind of a little bit more on the supplicative type of conversation, the type of energy. And that's a big part of the reason why these women, like he's saying, are not giving him the response that he wants. But if he's aware of that, why is he doing it?
you say, hey, you look good. Hey, this. Hey, you're beautiful. Hey, they automatically look at the dynamic as this. She's up here, you're down here. And even if the woman might think you're
That's not entirely true also, because it's really about the way you carry yourself. It's about the eye contact, which he's wearing sunglasses, which kind of takes that away. But it's about your voice. It's about your body language. What you say is one element, but it's not even the biggest one, because you can go up to a girl and tell her she's hot in a way where you come across as that she's going to like you. Like, you have every expectation of success and that she is the kind of girl that you're used to being with, and that you have no fear, no anxiety about being rejected whatsoever, and you're not attached and not needy. Or you can say the same thing and come across as a total needy, nerdy bitch. It just depends on the way you carry yourself. So yes, what you say is a factor, and going direct has pros and cons, but the way he's talking to these women is a little bit soft, right? That's the way I would describe it. It's a little bit soft. What's the whole internet thing? Like soft boy. It's a little bit like that. And I'd say he should focus more on that than just the verbals of what he's saying.
attractive, she now thinks her shit doesn't stink. She now is carrying herself like, oh, you want me, you want to fuck with me. And as a matter of fact, I will go a step further and say this. When you work on yourself and you look good, and the first thing you're doing when you're validating a woman, she thinks something is wrong with you. I fucking guarantee you. Think about it like this, right? I'm FitX Fearless, I'm a handsome guy in great shape, etc., etc. I go up to a girl and the first thing I tell her is, hey, you look good. Hey, you beautiful. Hey, I'd like to take you out. I was doing that shit on purpose to prove a point. The girl's like, hold the fuck up. I mean, he looks good, but why he coming up to me validating me like that? What the fuck is wrong with him? He don't already get girls? The fucking gurus on the internet will have you believe, oh, it doesn't matter what you say to the woman. Yes, the fuck it does. Because she can like you, and then you talk your way out of the motherfucker. You make yourself look weaker. Why would a man who already has options be leading with validation? Think about it, right? If you're a guy and a super beautiful girl is just all over you, she's just pursuing you, bombarding you with messages and calls, you might think, what? Hold up, something there right here. This might be too good to be true. That's what the girls are thinking. A lot of the times when you've done the work and you are approaching girls and you leave with a compliment.
I mean, that's true, but not if a girl just came up to me and gave a compliment. Yeah, if she's showering me and being like, aggressive and needy and all that, but that's not what this is.
They think this is too good to be true. Something has to be wrong with him. He has to be a weirdo.
Yeah, I don't know. what he's saying doesn't really make sense to me here at all. Saying it's too good to be true. I mean, it kind of shows to me that he has a big ego because he's filtering things through his perception that, you know, I'm a high value man, I'm red pill, 500,000, whatever, a lot of subs, good looking, etc. And the only reason the girls wouldn't be interested is because they think it's too good to be true that I'm coming up to them and complimenting them, which it's just not the case. Like, sometimes a girl might think that, you know, that you're out of her league or whatever. But it wouldn't be just because you said she was pretty, right? Like, I don't know. That's a little bit of a stretch to me.
He has to be a creep. So they automatically like, hold up, red flag, wall up, a guy that looks this good, he can come up to me and have a conversation, but he shouldn't be pressing me like that. He shouldn't be pushing me like that. He shouldn't be that into me so quickly. Because if he look good, he should already get girls. I know I look good as a woman, but damn, you telling me that I'm the most beautiful girl he ever seen? So you
He didn't say that.
automatically make the woman start to question your value. That's what I'm saying. When you leave with a compliment, when you validate, she starts to question your value. I'm telling you guys to dress well. I'm telling you guys to look your best. I'm telling you guys to be in great shape, do all of these things, all the while working on approaching women and getting better with women. Well, you don't want to shoot your own self in the foot by going up to her and the first thing you do is validate. She knows when you go up to her that you find her attractive. That's why you're talking to her. You don't have to spit it out. The best way to approach, I have said it and I will say it again.
I don't understand why that's all he's doing in all of the approaches he's showing then. You know, if he wants to make an example of what not to do, I understand that. I've done that. But then why wouldn't you also show a bunch of examples of what the good approaches look like? So that's a little odd. It kind of seems like it might be a rationalization, but something doesn't quite make sense there to me.
And this video proves my motherfucking point. When you go up to women and you validate them, they look at you as being below them. They look at you as something ain't right. They look at you and like, well, I got the leverage now. Dating is all about leverage, bro. You could try to deny it all you want to. It's all about leverage. Somebody has to like somebody else more. There ain't no such thing as fucking equality. You and her, one of you motherfuckers got to like the other person more. And you gotta make sure it's her liking you more. Because if you like her more, she won't respect you. She won't feel like you're a kid. For a large majority, a good portion of the time.
Is there no more infield? He only showed, what, 4 approaches? Where's the 100 approaches?
From a woman thinking that something ain't right with you. Why are you so eager and so interested so fast? All right, guys, the third thing I learned from approaching is that I need to approach more. Even me, a guy who's approached hundreds of girls, approaching needs to be a part of your life. Even me, all the approaches I've done, right? Today when I went out there, I kind of felt anxious as well. The anxiety, it never completely goes away. You might think I'm perfect, you might think I'm superhuman because I make content, but I'm just a guy. I'm a normal person, guys.
It never completely goes away permanently, I agree, but it does go away in a shorter term. So in the course of a night, if you talk to a bunch of women, eventually the anxiety can go away completely. Or in the course of a month, if you're going out and approaching a lot, it will go away completely while you're doing that regularly. And then if you take a break or whatever, then it comes back. But in terms of a state, yes, anxiety can go away completely. It just doesn't permanently go away forever.
I have just done it time and time again. My repetition is out of this world. I have done what I'm telling you guys to do time and time again, right? You can't get so comfortable when you're relying on dating apps. I've proven to you guys that I can get a lot of matches on dating apps. I've proven that I can code approach. And I'm telling you, both of those things need to combine.
I believe he gets a lot of matches on dating apps. He shows very professional pictures. But I also am pretty sure that his dating app game or whatever is far better than his cold approach.
I don't believe cold approach is the most efficient way to meet women, but I think that the intangibles that cold approach gives you, helping you overcome your anxiety, helping you lead conversations. If you can go up to a beautiful girl, bro, and talk to her and have a conversation and lead it the right way, what do you think you're gonna do when you start going out with girls who are legitimately into you, who have already looked at you as pre-qualified? That's why my close rate is so high, because girls are going out with me, they already find me attractive, they've already pre-qualified me. I have the confidence that I've learned and gained from being able to talk to any girl that I want, and I seal the deal. When you think that you could just sit behind your fucking phone, text and DM girls, what ends up happening is you start to become out of touch. You might get matches, but you go on these dates and you're awkward. You go on these dates and you don't know how to lead. So I encourage you to approach more. Make approaching a part of your life. Now, you know the way I was approaching is not the best way to approach because you're validating, you're putting her on a pedestal. She thinks that something is wrong with you. You should approach the right way, how I teach with outcome independence, going up to the girl, asking her a couple questions about herself, seeing if she's engaged in asking you questions, and asking her out. And even then, as you've seen in one of the approaches, the girl was asking, you know, she seemed all bubbly, but then she told me she still had a boyfriend. So it doesn't matter. Like, that's why you gotta.
Okay, so he showed what not to do, but he's not explaining what to do, right? He's not giving any examples of infield of that or of an opening line you could use. He's telling you, don't go direct. Here's examples of me getting rejected going direct. What should you do? Here's a vague conceptual idea of what you should do, but I'm not going to get into specifics. That bothers me a little bit.
Keep your interactions short and sweet. You don't want to spend that much time talking to girls. Keep the interactions short and sweet, but make it a part of your life. I can be anywhere. I can be at any time and I can talk to a beautiful girl, whether that be on the street, whether that wherever. I can stop a girl right now and hold a conversation with her. You should be able to do this frequently. Make it a part of your life and you will notice that approaching is gonna become more and more easy for you, okay? And that's it, guys. This is what I've learned from being rejected plenty of times. I've been rejected hundreds of times. I just got rejected even more. I'm still here, I'm still confident. It doesn't move me. So you get out there, approach, get more confident as long.
Wow, that's a little disappointing. So what I really want to see is his overall stats. He says 100. And I get it. That's going to get clicks on YouTube. Sure. Obviously, this guy knows what he's doing in terms of marketing. But he says 100. He showed 4 or 5. And hey, that's still more than any other red pill coach I can think of. So I'll give him that. You know, they mostly show 0. But what was his overall stats? 100 women all rejected him that way? I really doubt that's true. And I think that's actually kind of actively misleading people because that approach, it wasn't ideal, but it wasn't terrible. Like, he's saying the verbals are what was bad about it. The verbals weren't amazing, but also the nonverbal communication, the vibe of his approaches, they were okay, but they weren't amazing. They weren't awful, right? It wasn't like terrible. And at least some of the women, because I've had plenty of clients who are not nearly as good looking of him, who are still as him, who are still nervous, still shy, and they approach girls, ask for their numbers, and have out of 100 approaches, they're going to not get rejected by 100. That would be an extreme outlier. So I like some of the philosophy he's saying. Some of it makes a lot of sense. Some of it seemed kind of out of left field and not true. Some of it was good. But when someone watches that video, what are they going to think? This good-looking dude who's in great shape, has, you know, a big social media following, all those things. He approached 100 women and they all rejected him. Wow, approaching must suck. I'm just going to give up on that, right? That's how people are going to take it. A lot of people are going to see that and feel like it's pointless because that's what he said. He said he did 100 approaches and they all rejected him. He did not clarify. I would be much less bothered by the video if he clarified, well, at least 5 or 10 gave me their numbers, right? And I doubt he actually did the 100 approaches. He's talking about maybe in his entire life he did 100. I don't know. But to say he got rejected by 100 women when he only shows 5 is definitely going to be disencouraging and misleading to a lot of people. And so I'm not a big fan of that. Maybe he didn't do that on purpose, but that's the way people are going to take it. And if you did 100 approaches the way he did those approaches, you're going to get some numbers. Some girls are going to be receptive. It might not be the highest percentage, but at least out of 100, you'd probably get 10, 20 numbers. Even if you're not good looking, even if you're not charismatic, even if your game is not on point and you're being very direct, like he said. So this video, it has some interesting insights. There's some things he says that I definitely agree with. But it kind of shows when you fixate on the surface level, which is what the red pill community kind of encourages and talks about perhaps a little too much. When you fixate too much on looks and status and not qualifying or validating women, being like, I can't qualify her. There's been plenty of women who I slept with who the approach, I qualified them, right? It's not this big deal. It's much more about the way that you carry yourself and the way that you come across as basically having the combination of strong desire, strong intent, like you really want her genuinely, not in a needy way, but in a genuine way. And then your ability to be grounded, unreactive, non-needy at the same time. So not pushy, not like, I'll be really upset if you reject me, but being able to put yourself out there, take the lead without seeming like someone who would get butthurt or who's already decided no matter what she says, you want to sleep with her, who has no standards. It's the balance of those two things. There's a lot more to it, but I think in a lot of ways he's kind of missing the point. And, you know, his cold approach knowledge is still at a lower level, right? For him to be talking like he's some, you know, high level expert. I respect that he's going out and approaching, but there are a lot of things about his message that I disagree with. And, you know, you can say, well, who are you to talk about this? Well, I've shown a number of polls, including a fitness model, including, you know, any kind of hot girl that you can think of. I've shown myself taking them home on camera, right? I've shown all the way from approaching them to taking them home. And I've shown making out. I've shown, you know, whatever it is. I've shown that as opposed to just, you know, saying it's 100 and actually showing 5 approaches where they rejected me. And if you want to see all of those, they're not currently on YouTube. There's a couple clips from those you can find on YouTube, but those are not on YouTube because you can't put that kind of stuff on YouTube without getting banned. That just is what it is. A number of, you know, everyone from Street Attraction, you probably don't even remember them, but they were banned for showing too much infield. Pickup Alpha was banned for showing too much infield of polls, stuff like that. But if you do want to see actual game all the way from approaching to taking the girl home, you want to see exactly how that works, see me break down every step of the interactions so you can know exactly the strategy involved in making that happen in a way that comes across as authentic, that is not pushy, that is very effortless, then you can click the link below to get a copy of my online course, God Mode, which has over 5 hours of infield footage broken down. And so it's not 5 approaches that lasted 20 seconds, and that's like the whole game that I'm showing. It goes much more in depth. So you can see what approaching at a high level, at a level that gets real results, what it looks like, and not just get the theory and the philosophy and go a level beyond that. Now I'm going to answer some questions. I don't know what you're basing this on, but I mean, at this point, it's in the hundreds of women I've slept with from cold approach. All right, I'll see if there's any good questions, maybe answer a couple. What are you talking about specifically? I need more information to give you feedback. Are you saying you're hitting on girls on your like social circle on Instagram or something? I would say solid. Yeah. I would start with something like at least 30 minutes a day, commit to that, and then try to, you know, increase it over time. Sure, but that applies to less than 1% of the population. So in groups of 2, in larger groups, it tends to be pretty easy, depending on the type of group. But if it's a group of 2, I mean, there's this girl I took home like 2 weeks ago who was with her friend, and her friend was cute, but my friend was with a different girl already. And so there was no one to talk to the friend. So basically, I'm talking to the other girl. It's clearly on. It's going very well. I give the friend some attention. I don't ignore her. And because it was very clearly on and she had already decided in her mind she wanted to go home with me, basically she and her friend just talked. They like, went aside or whatever, and like a sidebar in law, and they basically agreed, okay, I'm gonna go home with him. You go back to the hotel by yourself, right? And then the friend just left. So when it's really on, things like that will happen a lot. It does somewhat depend on the culture. Like generally, Latinas are generally more cool about that. They're more mature about it. Whereas like a lot of Asian women won't want to leave their friends, or they'll judge their friends more for, wanting to go home with a guy. So you want to be aware of that. But generally, if it's on enough, it won't be that difficult. You just got to be a little bit patient, because this took like 30 minutes. And then the other thing is you can be a wingman for the friend, right? Find out if the friend is single. And if the friend is single, help her meet guys. Ask what her type is. She'll describe whatever, I like, muscular black guys, whatever she says. You find guys that meet her criteria, and then either you point them out, or even better, you go up to them and be her wingman. And then she, if anything, will almost value you more than her friend, right? You're actively helping her get laid, where her friend, who's probably the more attractive one in most of these cases, is kind of inherently to some degree a cock block, because she's taking a lot of the, the guy's attention because they're going to her. So you're adding a lot of value to her night. She's going to love you. And then she's going to like proactively want you to go home with the friend. Yeah. Sometimes. Sure. Doesn't really matter. I mean, you look young. So, I mean, if I've heard that many times when I was, in my early 20s, girls would say I looked 12 or whatever all the time, and I still pulled them. So that's just your over analyzing and giving too much value to something that isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, Rare, are you in a small town? Are you approaching like this is partly why you should be approaching, random women at bars and clubs, as opposed to trying to game the girls in your social circle. All right. If I see any more good questions in the next minute or two, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off in a minute and talk to you guys tomorrow. If you have any recommendations for, videos to react to in field like today, or anything that's really interesting and relevant to pick up, let me know. Most of my lays are from Cold Approach, but that's not because it's just a personal preference. Like I could meet girls from dating apps. I have good profiles and get matches, all that. But generally, the chances of meeting a girl you really, really like are higher with Cold Approach. And also, it's just more fun when you get good at it, right? It's just more exciting to go to a bar. You have no idea what's going to happen. You could end up having a threesome. You could, all kinds of random shit can happen. Whereas online dating is just a little bit more static and predictable, I guess. Overall, it's just more boring to me. Not that there's anything wrong with it, and you should use it, especially if you're not getting results in general. You should draw water from all sources when you're, dehydrated. Yeah, well, I wouldn't approach a bunch of women or like hit on a bunch of women at a small college. Now, at a university with like 20,000 plus students, sure. But if you're in a small college, I would just build a social circle while you're in college, well, like in that environment, and then develop your Cold Approach skill set elsewhere, right? At bars, at clubs. If in your city there's another college, you could go to that other one, like a larger one. Build that skill set, and then as you're building that social circle, you will start seeing opportunities and be able to make something happen because you're doing cold approach and getting good at the underlying skill that will lead you to have success in your social circle. Because if you're still a guy who doesn't know when to escalate, doesn't know, exactly how to do it in a way that's smooth, when to make a move, when she's not interested, all these kinds of things, then you can cause a bad reputation in your social circle. And it's not the end of the world, but that's the one situation where you do want to worry about your reputation a little bit or think about it, is in people who know people, right? In your social circle. But any other environment with cold approach, you don't have to worry about that. All the time. I mean, I was in Vegas pretty much the whole last month, nonstop. I mean, hey, I don't know. Not a terrible idea on its face. You could try it. Let me know how it goes. I mean, what is really going to happen? There's nothing that awful that can happen. If you get a bad reputation in your social circle, what you do is build a different social circle. Well, until the last few days, I was basically on vacation, just going out, approaching women, doing my own thing, traveling, etc. Um, and I'll talk about this. I've been working on, a lot of self-improvement kind of stuff. That's always a focus. Or that's something I've focused on more lately. Changing my diet, building good habits, all that kind of stuff. I read a lot. Percentage success rate. It depends on the environment. It depends, it can vary, because if it's, let's say, a college campus, you're going to get different kinds of reactions than at a mall. Or if you're at a loungy bar, like a bar where the people are just standing around not really doing anything, you're going to get a different level of receptiveness than a high-end Vegas nightclub. So somewhere like Vegas, you're going to get a lower rate of success, but you get more opportunities, right? There's way more attractive women total, but you're going to have to go through more blowouts, rejections, etc. That's the trade-off. So you kind of have to be aware of that dynamic, that it's not one clear answer, but I would say on average, it's got to be, I'll get laid on average every 10 to 25 approaches, usually. Somewhere around there. And that's not including getting some numbers and dates on the way, right? So that's, because last week when I was in Vegas, I went out 6 days, got laid 3 of those 6 days when I went out. And one of them was the 5th girl I approached. Although, funny thing, the first 4 girls were really unreceptive that night. Like they gave very bad reactions. It was harsher at first. And then the 5th girl, who was the hottest girl of that entire week, was actually super receptive, and it was easy. So sometimes that's how it works. And then the other 2 were about out of 20 approaches, and the other one was about 25. I wasn't keeping an exact track, but roughly around there. So that, there's some specific data for you to answer your question. He doesn't live in Vegas anymore, as far as I'm aware. Exposure therapy. It's to hang around women more of the time. And the cold approach is obviously a part of this, but that's not the whole part of it. You should also be doing things like going to meetup.com meetups, anywhere where there would be women. That's something you can do. You could do things like improv classes, for example. You could do things like yoga classes. You could do online dating as well. But cold approach should definitely be a part of it, because that's just going to it's going to get rid of the anxiety the fastest the more you do it. It's very hard at first. A lot of people quit. Just be aware that a lot of people who try it, this was me the first time I tried, they quit because the anxiety is so overwhelming and give up. And yet, of the guys who are able to stick through that, who are able to have the willpower and the discipline and the patience with themselves to just keep going, eventually you get fed up with your own bullshit. You'll have that breakthrough moment where you're able to start approaching, or able to start escalating, able to have better interactions, to be more vulnerable, to really put yourself out there, etc. And that eventually the results will snowball. But you just have to be the guy that's willing to push through that initial discomfort, that initial phase where at first you're excited and you're like, approaching women, that sounds great. I want to get laid. I'm going to get more confident. Cool. Then you start doing it. There's a book by Seth Godin called The Dip, which isn't a marketing concept, but context. But that concept applies here. You're excited. Then the cold, hard reality creates a dip in your emotions and you feel like it's not working. And then you want to just move on and give up and try something else. That's what tends to happen. So just be aware of that is the trend, and then push through that, right? Push through it. And one little technique you can use, I use this for building an online business. I told myself, I started writing articles, and some of them would get some views or likes or whatever, but I wasn't making money from it right away at all. And so I told myself, I will write an article a day until I get to 100 articles. And then I can decide whether to give up on this whole being a dating coach thing. And I got to the 100 articles. And by then it wasn't even a question. Like I wasn't, making a ton of money, but I was making some. I was getting traction. I saw the direction things were going in. And then it was very obvious that I wanted to stick with it. So this is called a bright line in psychology. I got this from a book, I believe called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, if you want to learn more about the concept. But it's called having a bright line, setting a bright line where you commit to something until X happens. And so with cold approach, this might be until you do 100 approaches, or until you ask 25 women on a date through cold approaching or whatever. And then you can make a rational decision of how to move forward. But it's a way to take your emotions out of the equation, because that's usually what prevents us from having success. And that's what I'm doing right now. Like recently, there was a family tragedy. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but after that happened, I started drinking too much for like a month. I was drinking like on a daily basis for a month. And so what I did, or what I'm doing, is I have a bright line that I'm going to not drink at all. I'm at a week now, for 30 days and see how I feel at the end of that. Right. And, I really wanted to drink last night because I was stressed and it was a bad day and I was, whatever. But I just reminded myself, well, let's see what happens at 30 days, right? Let's see how it is until 30 days. That's not that much to ask. And so that's what got me to the next step. So that's a little technique you can use. How many countries have I gamed in? Just the US? I think. Wait, who's downvoting? What is that? I've never seen that. There was a downvote on the screen. What was that? I have no clue. Interesting. Anyway, so I'm very curious what that animation was. Depends on what you mean by 10 out of 10, because if you mean women that are like socialites that really care about their Instagram follower count, that are, have a lot of plastic surgery, the LA 10, the bitchy LA 10 plastic kind of girl, then more difficult. Yes, there's ways to do it, which involves being kind of a douchebag, but in the right way. But if you mean just like the girl next door type of 10, which is more what I'm into, then I wouldn't say that's the case. I mean, there's occasionally an example of a client of mine getting laid from a grocery store, but that's not common. I would say the most success stories I hear are either night game or there are a good amount from day game, but it's not as many. So either night game, dating apps is number 2, and then number 3 would be day game. But it really depends on the city and the situation, their age. Because if they're college age, they're a lot more likely to have success from day game from gaming at university. Or if they're older, it's more likely, like it depends on the city. I have a lot of clients who say live in somewhere like Miami, or New York, which is really good for day game, where they get laid more from the day than at night. But in general, that's the trend. Thanks, Integra. I don't know. It's a lot. At least 50% in the US. It doesn't mean they're okay. They might be looking for something serious, but they're open to just a hookup on the way to getting there. I don't know my exact body count, but over 200, less than 300. I'm not at a certain point. I stopped keeping exact track because that just, well, on the one hand, it just feels like it's not coming from the right place. Like, at what point is it like the mission is accomplished, the goal has been achieved, I got to 250, 500, whatever. It is, you do want to be someone who like goes for it, who goes for the close or whatever, but being obsessed with that, I think can cause you to get more narcissistic, basically more focused on the result and not the experience. So you do want to balance those two things, because you can pull a 10 who you don't like very much, you don't get along with very well, and you're doing it because you feel cool. But it'd be much better to find, let's say, an 8 who you actually genuinely have a connection, and the whole experience of being around her will be better by a lot. The sex will be better by a lot. Everything will be better. You just don't have that same level of ego gratification. Favorite pickup artists, in terms of ones I learned the most from, as opposed to the best, are two different answers. So the ones I got the most out of, early days, like 2012 to 2014, RSD, Tyler, and Julian. Now, there's certainly some messages they had that I think were more harmful than good. There was a lot of like win-lose mentality in what they said, especially Julian. But there's also a lot of value. And they had some very, very powerful concepts that I'd never heard or no one else really had talked about. So those are two good ones. Simple Pickup, not because their game was amazing, but because they made it very relatable. They made it seem fun. And they showed very average guys having success. Early days, like Honest Signals, I liked a lot. Mark Manson, because of his book, not because, I don't know if his game is even good, but Models is a very good book. Those are ones that come to mind. Yeah, I'm not the biggest. I mean, I don't have an opinion on Julian's self-help stuff, really. It just doesn't intrigue me. I don't watch it. I don't care about it. But could be great. I don't know. All right. I might answer one or two more questions if I see anything interesting. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. But, doing these live streams, it shows a lot of the principles of self-improvement in general, because, today I was not in an amazing mood, didn't really want to do it, but I committed that I'm at least going to do a live stream every day, at least post some form of YouTube video every day, consistently. And I didn't want to do it, but, I made that commitment. And then 5-10 minutes in, I was actually enjoying myself and I wanted to stay on, right? I told myself I was only going to do 30 minutes and I'm actually at about an hour, because I got into it, right? Motion creates emotion. That's a great Tony Robbins quote. And And the general idea, and this applies to pickup, obviously I'm talking about something not pickup related, but you can apply it to that. When you rely on the idea of I need to feel good, then I'll take action, right? It's like every artist I know, every writer I know, because I've made a decent amount of money writing. Every person I talked to who wanted to be a writer and they were interested, they would start talking about, oh, well, I just, I don't really want to write, or I'm waiting for inspiration. Basically, I ask, all right, how much do you write? And they don't have a specific structure. They don't commit. All the ones who are failing, who aren't making any money from it, they don't treat it like a business. They treat it like art. It's in a different category, and they just hope it'll work out. And the people who are successful, like myself, treat it like, okay, I'm going to start the day and write at least 1,000 words or something along those lines. Whatever the specific technique is, doesn't, as long as it's something where you're actually putting yourself out there and being consistent and taking action regardless of your emotions. Right? So emotionally, didn't want to do the live stream, but I decide I'm committed. I'm going to do it. My emotions are not part of the equation. Do it anyway. And then your emotions catch up after. Same thing with cold approach. You're not going to want to do it at first. You have to realize that your emotions are deceiving you. They will limit you. They will get in your way. But if you go out, as soon as you do an approach, no matter how much you didn't want to do it, your emotions change after the approach, not before the approach. After you decide to go out, not before. And the more you let that sink in, the more you will free yourself to accomplish whatever goal you have. Now, at the same time, you want to be realistic. My biggest sticking point in life has always been having unrealistic expectations of what I should be able to do, of having a David Goggins, like thinking I'm David Goggins kind of, and telling myself, all right, I'm going to do 8 hours of this a day. There was one period where I put money on it, and I managed to do it for a month because I put money on it. I only ate 1,600 calories per day. And I was previously eating 2,500 or something. And I would work out 4 hours a day. 1 hour was Insanity, which is kind of like P90X. It's a very difficult cardio workout. That's about an hour. And then the other 3 hours were biking. And I did that every single day, even though my previous habits were nowhere near that. And I did do it for a month, and I lost a lot of weight and I got into better shape. The problem is it was such an extreme change outside my equilibrium that it was so stressful that at the end of it, when I reached my month goal, I didn't want to maintain that. And I started eating super nachos and Taco Bell cravings boxes every day. And then I gained all the weight back. Right. So you do need to go against your emotions to some extent, but still acknowledge they exist and realize that change is progressive, and it can't just be something that you go from 0 to 100 and just night and day completely change everything, right? And it's finding that balance that's the thing I've struggled with. And I don't claim to be like a general self-improvement guru, right? That's not like, I'm not giving fitness advice. I will maybe if I get to 10% body fat, then maybe I will if I get in amazing shape. But I'm not giving those kinds of advice, but that's been my struggle, right? That's been the thing that has been difficult for me. Although my struggle might not be the best sentence, because isn't that Hitler's book's translation? In some countries, there's differences, but there's very few countries where the difference is substantial enough that it's a reason not to try. And Germany is not one of the countries where cold approach is hard. I've pulled a number of German girls, mostly in Vegas, because that's where you get tourists from everywhere. And that's, gives me an interesting perspective, because I have met women from pretty much any country. So I have a general idea of the cultural differences between, small town in Germany. I pulled a girl from a very small town in Germany, cheated on her boyfriend, or a large city in Germany, or from, Colombia, or from South Korea versus the Philippines, or whatever. And there's differences for sure. But are there any that are like not gameable? No. And in general, Europe, there's nothing hard about picking up girls from Europe. If anything, Eastern Europe, specifically like, Ukraine, they tend to be, but not always, tend to be more conservative, and you might have to take on a couple dates. Do I believe in having female friends? I believe that it's not something like if there's women you get along with as friends or you're building a social circle, there's nothing wrong with it. And having female friends certainly can give you insights, and there's pros and cons, just like anything, but it's not something that you need, and it's not something you need to avoid. So it's just personal preference. Yeah, that is one of the kind of negatives to game, you could say, is it makes it harder to trust women to a degree. Um, Now, I want to preface men cheat all the time too. So it's just that it's harder for men to imagine women cheating. But that is an issue, seeing girls cheat and being worried if they'll cheat on you. But I think it's better to be aware of that and have a bit of consternation, concern about it before rather than after. And to be aware that that's common and that dynamic exists. But you don't want to get paranoid about it. Um, no, the thing that stopped me from losing weight, at least like recently, was like I said, there was something that happened, family tragedy, and then I started drinking on a daily basis for like a month. I suppose if I was like desperate to get laid, then I might have a certain drive and, oh, if I lose weight, that'll fix everything. Um, I might have that mentality, right? So I might be more driven to it. But that's something I'm working on. Wingman app. I don't think I've ever planned to make a Wingman app, but a group, yes. A mastermind group where you can find wings. I'm about to work on so here's the group. It already exists. You can join it. It is completely free, even though it probably shouldn't be based on what's included. So you can join that, and I'm going to add a section or a guide about finding wings on that over time. No, I never would drink by myself, or very rarely. I mean, I still want to get in better shape, but in a way, getting infield while I'm a little bit overweight is almost useful. But I've lost a month ago, I was 215, and right now, today, I'm 203. So I've lost some weight. Yeah, absolutely. Possible. I mean, he just doesn't seem to I mean, he has a girlfriend at the moment, and I don't live in Vegas, so a lot of reasons. One is the fear of getting canceled, right? And that one is understandable. That can happen to anyone. And going into something more generic or more family friendly is appealing. One is a lot of them get married or have a long term girlfriend who doesn't want them to do it. I know when I started my channel, I did have a girlfriend, and yeah, I mean, I didn't use that to quit. I still pushed through that, but on some level, she didn't love it, right? She accepted it, understood it, but there's still a degree of subconsciously she can't help but not want you to do it for obvious reasons. Okay, just realized my laptop is about to die. So I guess I'm going to wrap up here. This is a nice stream. It was good talking to you guys. I hope you enjoyed the infield breakdown at the beginning. And I'm definitely going to be doing another one of these tomorrow. So see you guys then. And gaming from cold approach is definitely different from your social circle, 100%. But I would get good at cold approach first, because that's the harder part in terms of you're going to have to go through. You can't be really assertive and lead and like really escalate a lot in social circle. And if you do that, that's what's going to cause problems. But you can, in cold approach, learn through making mistakes and like asking a girl out or like going for the kiss, whatever. You can afford to be more bold without the same consequences. Where in your social circle, if you like asked a girl out who didn't like you, didn't feel the same way, then, you know, they talk or whatever. Whereas that's not an issue in cold approach. So it's better to get over that part first, because that's the part that most guys have the most resistance to, and that's the hardest for them. Well, great. I don't know what your question is, ASD, but if you have a picture that's 9.7 on Photo Filer, which makes it sound like it's some kind of like like bad sex thing, filier or whatever, 9.7, that's great. You should get a lot of matches then. If you have a 9.7, that's as good as my best picture that I've ever taken. 30 pounds overweight. Yeah, I would actually say I would wait to do a photo shoot, but still get some decent photos on your own. But I would wait until you're like, I don't know, 10 pounds overweight. How much is a lot of matches? Enough to get laid on a weekly basis if you use the apps correctly. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. Of course, everyone will get that. There's not a man on this earth that doesn't get that. You'll get it less the better your game is. But sometimes that's a bad thing, because some girls will tell you, because they enjoyed the interaction, they liked being around you, and they wanted to at least flirt or whatever. Then they tell you 20 minutes in, that can be annoying. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up before the computer dies, but I'll see you guys tomorrow.